And good Monday morning, April 13th, 2009. A blustery night into a rainy day. I even heard we could have some hail before all is said and done. That is redonkulous. It's sunny inside, though. Good morning, everybody. Dan Spangler. Thank you very much for being with us on the CW Louisville Live this morning. A big jam-packed hour for you today. We're going to talk about how people make mistakes in business, employers, things like that. We're going to get you to not make the mistakes. 51 fatal business errors. They're all written down here so that you don't have to repeat them, okay? Because this guy did some of them, but not so many. Enough to write a book about them, though, however. All right, we're going to talk to him a little bit. Right now, Jim Muehlhausen is an author of the 51 Fatal Business Errors. There's more than that, though, right, Jim?
Unfortunately, yes.
But you fit 51 of them in here, and you say that you did it because you lived through some of them.
I've probably lived through 55 of the 51, but yes, I have lived through all of them. They always say in business, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
That is absolutely true. So you went through them. You found the corrections to those, and you want to let people know how to not repeat them. But don't we learn by mistakes, right? Just like you did?
You know, I like to call that the school of hard knocks. I think that the day you start a business, you enroll yourself in the school of hard knocks. The problem is it's very slow,
right,
and it's very expensive.
Right.
And so there are better ways. In fact, one of the things that I added to the book at the last moment was a story for each one, because I find that business owners learn through stories,
right,
not through theoretical. An awful lot of theoretical business books out there. You read it, and I always like to ask people, 5 years ago, name a book you read, and tell me how your business is different because of it. And everyone always goes, I can't.
Right. We read it, and then kind of goes out. We forget about what
it's theoretical,
we learned, right?
It doesn't stick.
Yeah, exactly. So how did it stick with you? Let's take people through your experience of starting businesses. You actually grew quite a franchise that you then sold, right?
I actually was a Meineke franchisee.
Right.
I was in law school for half a semester, and I said, why are you doing this? I don't want to be a lawyer. And so I started shopping for franchises and knew nothing about cars. I started that, grew it pretty successfully, sold it, started another company. Typical entrepreneur stuff.
Sure.
You know, cleaning window wells as a kid to vending business in college, stuff like that.
Right.
But effectively, you realize that you're learning things the hard and the slow and the expensive way. A lot of times when I do seminars, in fact, I'll be at the Louisville Slugger Museum tomorrow,
right,
talking to entrepreneurs tomorrow morning. But I'll ask people who's made $1 million mistake, and almost all the hands in the room go up, because if you count lost opportunities as a mistake, you better have your hand in the air, or else you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, no question. Now, and we hear about this economy, how downtimes usually are great times for entrepreneurs to get out there and start their own businesses. What are some tips for people that are maybe out there right now thinking, you know what, maybe this is the time that I should invest in myself, and maybe hopefully people will invest in me?
Well, I'll give them a little bit of an incentive to do so. I believe that there's only one person on the planet that will really pay you what you're worth, and that's yourself.
Right.
So the good opportunity is that you get an opportunity to make more money working for yourself than you do for anyone else. But one of the things that I like to focus on is the business model. It's why so many people buy a franchise. It's not really about the brand to me. It's about the model that they have created. Yeah, that they have successfully created a business model, and having done both for myself, I assure you that it's better to create a business model that is, and that's really different than a plan.
Right.
A business plan is just, here's how we're going to do it. But
right,
I could create a great business plan for opening up an aardvark farm here in Louisville, and I'm guessing it probably wouldn't be well because the business model is poor.
You never know. Perhaps, but people don't spend the time to do it, right? And that's one of the key things that you want to get across in the book and in your discussions, right?
Exactly. Really, just focus on that business model and come up with a great one. You know, unmet, unserved, or unserved markets. There are places where entrepreneurs can slide into a niche. We can't compete with the IBMs or the Walmarts of the world, but there are underserved niches that entrepreneurs can attack via the web.
As a matter of fact, you give somewhat of a money-back guarantee in this book in terms of putting a business model together, don't you?
Well, I think that if you do it right, you can give a money-back guarantee on anything. In fact, a money-back guarantee is actually a tweak to a business model.
Excellent. All right. Well, and there's some tips that we want to let people know about. You know, some of the risks and some of the things that people can avoid. Failing to act as a benevolent dictator. Sounds scary, but tell us the thought behind that.
Well, the thought behind that is that there's a lot of talk about things like servant leadership,
right,
or really treating your people well. And at least with small business, and I deal with businesses under 500 people is what I deal with, is sometimes that becomes an excuse to be a weak leader. If I say leadership, what picture is coming in your mind? Probably some guy or gal on a horse leading the charge.
Sure.
It's one person. Businesses don't run by democracy. Committees don't run things. Leaders lead, and that's one person. And that the best leader is the benevolent dictator that treats their people well, takes their input when needed, but ultimately says, my name on the door. Ultimately, that decision is mine.
Well, and we're going to get to those other ones in just a second, but I want to go to something about you're talking about being a leader and taking charge and paying people what they're worth. There's a lot of people out there in this economy, these big CEOs of companies that are saying, I'm going to pay myself $1. Because times are tough, and I'm going to show that I don't necessarily need the money, but I'm going to show that I need to invest in the business for the time being. And you say that's a bad idea.
For big business, it's fine. If I own stock in a company, I'm perfectly happy if that CEO wants to take $1 worth of pay. But in a small business, what it really is an artificial subsidy. That if I'm a $200,000 a year person and I take a pay cut to $50,000, what I'm doing is giving a $150,000 subsidy from me to my business, and ultimately it's all my money anyway.
Right.
And it translates really to just kind of lowering the bar and probably making less money.
No question. All right. And speaking of investing in yourself, you say one of the other tips is to invest in training.
Yeah, this is one where big business should give some lessons to small business. A lot of times they need to learn from small business.
Right.
But big business does a much better job of recruiting people that have aptitude and then training them. What we want to do in small business is, I need X, and what I want, Sally just left and moved to Phoenix, and what I want is Sally Jr. to slide in and fully train, because I don't have time for that. I've got 27 hats that I'm wearing.
Sure.
And so I go out and I hire my competitors' rejects rather than just train people myself. And there's lots of great ways to train, but the key to even training is to start with a person of aptitude and then invest a little bit in training them, and you'll have a much better staff.
Sure. And instead of training yourself, one of the other key things that you say is abdicating versus delegating, and the difference between those two, obviously.
Well, abdicating is I've had it up to here, and all I know is that I'm not going to do it. You should do it instead. And I don't give you feedback loops or any training on how to do it, or really give you a chance for success. And then, of course, you fail. I blame you, call you bad names, and say that no one can do it as well as me. That's usually about the way it goes, right?
No question. All right. There's some other interesting things in this book. We're going to tell you about a book signing that's coming up as well, where you can meet Jim and get an autographed copy of the book. And we'll talk a little bit more about your discussion tomorrow morning at Slugger at the museum. But first of all, and we want to say, if you have any phone calls, any business questions, you're out there, you have a business right now, or you're thinking about starting a small business, you're an entrepreneur, let's say, and you want to know what some of these fatal mistakes are, give us a call right now, 502-267-2422. Well, taking your phone calls right now, 502-267-2422. Jim Muehlhausen is here. He's written 51 fatal business errors. And here's a couple of things that I saw in the book that were interesting. Number one that I saw was hiring your competitors' rejects. Well, they're our competitors, so they have a lot of information about my competition. Why shouldn't I hire them? You say it's a bad idea.
Yeah, and it's something that probably takes more time than we have. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to spend about 20 minutes on it. So here's the teaser to come to Louisville Slugger Museum tomorrow.
Right.
But effectively what it is I don't want to invest in training. I want to just plug someone in that already knows how to do it.
Right.
The point being, if you have a superstar that works for you, how hard do you hang on to them? Most people hang on very hard.
Sure.
And especially in times like these, your key people are even more important in a tough economy.
Right.
So if I am sitting in front of Sally Jr., like we talked about before, that plugs right in and I don't need to train her, somebody didn't want her working for them. That, to me, equals a reject. You hang on to your superstars. That person sitting across the desk probably isn't. We'd like to believe that he or she is. They're probably not. I'll tell you how to fix it, more importantly, tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, now, can people still get into this discussion tomorrow?
I have a few sponsor tickets. Thanks to Republic Bank for sponsoring me. They brought me in to do this event. You can go to my website, which is 51airs.com, 51airs.com, or you can call my office, 877-90-FOCUS.
Got it. All right, there you go. And, it kind of delves into, if you bring across a competitor from across the street and you make your star performer a little angry, this kind of goes to that point as well, that one of the fatal errors is ignoring your best performers and ignoring your worst performers.
Absolutely. And I'm going to focus more on the best performers because I think a lot of people are making this mistake in this tough economy because money's tight. And oh my gosh, I've got the worst one is I have a $200,000 salesperson and I go, darn, that Dan makes a lot of money at $200,000. Right. I know how I can save 200 grand, drop it right to the bottom line. And they're literally getting rid of their superstar sales performers to save money, which is a train wreck 2 years from now.
Sure. And you're not a big fan of, across the board cuts because what's